So I want to do a disclaimer that I've let off for a bit, is that in these podcasts, we do not affiliate with our sect of either Christian or any other affiliate involved for those that might join us out in these podcasts. So with that disclaimer, we will all be talking from the individual standpoint and not identifying as an identifying. Thank you. Okay. I was in a video that we watched. It was on Stoicism and the discipline and the importance of. And the one thing that it was talking about that was I find important is on our paths of growth is we hold off on self-gratification and the purpose of it and our purpose with it and helping to achieve our purpose. And from that causes appreciation. And that with that, it was also mentioning that we do not listen to outside influences of what judge us and sway us from our purpose of our path for self-growth.
I wrote down in my notes core values versus external pressures.
Yeah. So with that, it's easy for us to allow people to voice their opinion and sometimes sway it to their what deals may be. And this is where people can get lost in losing their own identification as a person. Because if we stick with our principles and our morals, this helps us continue our path of forward motion. And what is it we can gain from the denial of the gratification? Julie, your input?
Oh, my brain just kind of went blank. Sorry. I had something and then I didn't had it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it might come to your mind from word.
What?
That might come to your mind you heard.
Gratitude.
Okay. Is it about gratitude that might help one appreciate gratitude?
Can I have a definition for gratification?
Gratification is pleasing ourselves. Self-gratification.
Okay.
So when we're looking at something that's gratifying, we get pleasure from it.
Right, but holding off on that and having gratitude in that what we do have instead of the constant trying to self-please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if we're always seeking pleasure, we never appreciate its value. And seek, if we can never find its value, because we're always seeking it, then then the gratification means more to us. Because without, and when it is and around us, and we're taking in the gratification, it has a much greater effect and definition to us and with us in our lives emotionally and mentally. So it says on purpose, deny yourself or delay the onset of gratification. It doesn't mean do without. It means hold off.
But where's the contentment in constantly trying to have that gratification?
That's the point, is if we're always seeking it, if we're always seeking gratification, there's no appreciation for when that moment is gratifying.
It's just always on a cycle of more, 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 more. And then it's like, well, when are we ever getting even close to there? Because we're always,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And it's this is where hedonism has great adverse, actually is adverse to to actually being appreciated.
And
It's
then that constant wanting more, 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 more can go into that control thing where you're just like,
right. Or if we're always seeking more, we will never have anything that's gratifying to us, which that goes into um, gluttony. We become gluttonous of our actions, of our lives. And then with that, always being gluttonous becomes our purpose.
and so what the video was talking about was like the satisfaction in the pursuit.
Yes, the pursuit itself, the striving in the pursuit in itself can be gratifying.
It's like I'm thankful for just being here and just giving my effort.
Just now, just the moment
Yeah.
is where, because we want to look so far ahead and free, which is what it was mentioning, is if we're always caught up in the having, and when the comes are the moments we're without, and then when it returns, then we can appreciate. But if we practice and times when we're without,
Isn't there a saying kind of about that?
there there might be.
Yeah.
But this also goes into learning that we can't control the externals. It's part of the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to control the things I can and accept the things that I can't. And God, grant me the serenity to know the difference. You gain wisdom from it. You gain from the denial, and wisdom from when we do go without and we do practice restraint. and that if we do gain wisdom from it, and when we do, we know and learn from those experiences, which gains the wisdom. And it's the practice of the failures and the successes that cause us to appreciate those moments of gratification. And the other part of this that I remember hearing also is that the moment we take this, we step back to reset, is another chance to do it right and to give 100%. Because it was talking about that in this is give yourself make basically you give 100% of yourself in everything you do, which comes from a job well done, because without the distractions of everything your purpose to achieve and to strive. And there's where the appreciation of the effort and the gratification of the effort. And this, I think, is where by some people is that in today's culture and in society, it's the right. I want it right now. The self gratification right now.
Oh, yes, because we're in the age of you can order anything off of Amazon and it's there in an instant.
But
And so people have an expectation when they go to restaurants or something that they're like, it gets here now, and we get like this issue with patience and like not having much of it. And it's like,
right, because we can order DoorDash, we can order out. Okay.
or you
Which
could go to a fair where they serve high quality curly fries or whatever, and it's made on the spot, and it's like people are waiting for their food longer, but they don't realize it's not a fast food restaurant. It's like,
mhm, because you may have to wait in a line. They might
yeah,
have 15 or 20 people. So so when you deny yourself that momentary comfort, when you finally,
having to wait for it.
yes, is the appreciation of when you do.
It's like, oh, I finally got this. This was so worth it, kind of a thing.
Right, right. And so when we go, when we live through adversity, that does shape our character because it gives us a chance and a cause for reflection. It's the reason for reflection and is a reason for reflection. Yeah, I remember when I was younger, my dad would always say, don't get wrapped around the axle about what somebody else said. Worry about ish. Or don't worry about what somebody else did. Focus on what you need to do. Focus on what you need to accomplish. And of course, when we're younger, we don't want to hear this. We don't want the I have to wait.
Or the I have to sit here and be uncomfortable for a while and
Yeah.
or do this thing where it's like I committed to this, but I don't want to go through with it or
Hmm.
something. And it's like,
Because if we commit to something, we are responsible.
mhm.
We're responsible to it, and we fall short and break our limits. We then are accountable for actions and what was the reason for breaking the commitment.
When I was younger and my dad was like my parents would ask, "Hey, do you want to try this sport?" So I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So they signed me up for it, and I'd be like, at a certain point, I would be like, "Well, I don't want to do this anymore." And they're like, "Nope, you have to. I don't care if you're sitting on the bench. You're going to be there every single day because you committed to this, and we already paid for it, and all that." And it's like, yeah,
Hmm. Because somebody else paid for it and they don't want to waste their money.
yeah,
They want to get their money's worth out of it.
hmm
So, and when in team sports or in arts or anything that requires a discipline, when somebody's training,
I mean, you sign up for something, people are counting on you on the team.
yes, yes, and that when somebody is in training, there is a denial. If an athlete has to drop weight or has to gain weight in the right way, what is it they have to deny themselves? They deny those things that were causing lack of performance and address those problems or those areas.
Sounds like that could be applied to other things in life, like the things that hold us back.
Yes, exactly. Because we want to have, if, and this is where we can make excuses of how come we didn't, something didn't go right. We can blame everybody else. But when we sit back and reflect and we actually become honest with ourselves and become accountable to it, then we begin to learn when we take other out of the equation. It gives us a chance and an opportunity to look in the mirror. So, people are always talking about falling short. What was the reason you fell short? Why did you not succeed? What was the reason? Did you get distracted or were you not giving 100%? Because the one of the terms, and this is I'm vert here a bit, that people go back and try. It was told to me at one, and I had heard this from another place as well, which kind of confirmed its validity, is that when we only try,
There's doubt.
we have doubt and we leave room for excuses.
There was a book that I read, and it was talking about do or do not. There is no try, and it was talking about that scene in Star Wars, and it was
Hmm.
like, and it was saying that when Luke Skywalker says, "Well, I'll try," and it was saying, "Hey, this." He didn't have any he didn't think it would happen, kind of a thing by saying that.
Hmm.
He didn't think he could lift his ship out of the swamp or whatever.
Right.
And so it was like Yoda was like, do or do not. There is no try. He's saying, no, you gotta have some more faith in this. You gotta show some
Right.
commitment, because otherwise you're just in this state of doubt where you're just like, oh, it's not gonna happen, but I'll just attempt it.
Right. Your convictions. What are your convictions? And that people don't want to their convictions because it can be comfortable. But your convictions are what you in the that are not self-compromising. So it's easy to see here where we can get caught up in this cycle of always blaming something else. And this day and age, it's easy. It's a commonplace practice now.
Because we don't want to look at ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. There's these things going on now of gaslighting. Okay. Gaslighting is a form and a common practice of not taking account, of not being accountable, being responsible. And if one is to grow, part of growth is actually experience the discomforts. If you do or you don't, pain is inevitable. Growth is optional. So when we avoid and look for a topic during a discussion, that is because we may be getting ready to hear or hearing something we really don't want to listen to and hear of being what we're getting ready to get told.
Avoiding ourselves, not wanting to look ourselves in the mirror.
Exactly. And it's a very difficult step to actually realize that.
There
It takes,
was someone that was talking about forgiveness, and they're like, when you're looking to forgive yourself, you look yourself in the mirror and you try to look yourself in the eyes and say, hey, I forgive you for this, and you're very specific with it. And it's like, it is a hard thing to do.
mm-hmm, really is, to physically look in a mirror and to actually look into your own eyes.
And say, hey, I forgive you for this thing. And you're just like, wow.
Because when you look at yourself and go, I forgive you, and faced with a decision and a to make your decision and which choice to make to fulfill that decision. Once you've decided, you've already decided to leave it behind. But remember it. What was it that I from those make to where I had to a final resting place? I have choices to make and I decide. So with striving to be present, that's part of it. Because when we don't let ourselves become influenced in our task for the day by things that are outside, with everything with on YouTube, everything, the things that are distracting, narratives, reasons, those distractions placed to fulfill and to
Av-
persuade others.
avoid problems.
Yes, but distractions are fulfilling and self pursuit.
It's
This is
like I have something I don't want to address, so I'm just gonna go very deeply into work or go very deeply into watching videos online or doom scrolling, and it's like it's not getting addressed and you're just stuffing it under the rug and it's gonna come back later and be
mhm,
like,
because mm, because I would dare say that 60 to 70% of all problems between people and relationships because one is unwilling to do their part, whether that be your chores around the house, whether that be addressing the elephant in the room. I mean, that elephant in the room is really big and that's hard to sweep under the carpet, but you can always try to find a way to stuff it in the closet. Well, that's got to be a pretty damn big closet because when we shut the door on, we really want to look at it.
and eventually that elephant will come stomping out and there will be chaos.
Right. And then you have elephants eventually.
Yeah.
So it's a compound problem. And from there, we, how did this get so? We didn't self reflect. We didn't take the time to acknowledge our responsibilities were in our life for the day, which builds up. And with each day, you eventually come to the future.
It's like it's tomorrow me's problem and tomorrow me will deal with it. And then tomorrow me comes and they're like, what's this pile of whatever that was just that
Yeah.
just piled up and now I have to deal with it.
And we're all human and we do make mistakes and we all do this. Okay. I'm 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 as guilty as the next person. But it's about striving. But in striving, it's easy to also make excuses. Well, I can do this and tomorrow. I can have another at it.
Really, this is about balance. Because you have this thing where it's like striving and it's like you're striving towards a goal and you're getting things done, but then you have this other side of it where it's like, well, you're doing that too much
Mm-hmm,
or you're being consumed by it. And it's like, yeah,
mm-hmm. And that's where we have to realize I'm too much of this, of what we obsessed with.
it sounds like another philosophy to me too.
Well, mission is what?
No, there's a Swedish word for it, lagom.
Okay, but what obsession? What is the definition of obsession?
Obsession?
Obsession. Obsession is the drive.
I was thinking continuously striving.
Well, obsession is
It's like you don't stop.
you don't stop. You that becomes your focus. That becomes your drive.
Yeah.
It's like of this biography or this document World War, and it talked about General and trying to beat British off the Germans. But he so obsessed and that he was to sacrifice his men and those that were entering battle. He would say, "You're not hurt bad enough. Get back and fight." The obsession almost on insanity. But he reached the goal.
But
He
at what cost?
exactly. What cost are we willing to pay if we stay in that obsession? If we choose to stay in that obsession. So um so gratification can become an obsession
Mm-hmm.
because if we're always striving for self-gratification, the suffering has no. And there's other points in there that I'm sure I've missed.
There
Gonna,
was there was another point on moderation that I've heard of. Like if you're always trying and striving for moderation, there can be problems. And if it's forced upon someone, it is also a problem.
well, moderate is the practice of moderation is to not
What?
practice of moderation is yes, we do take part and we indulge, but we also put a limit to it, which was also another, which was also another practice of other. There were other practitioners of Stoicism that had a different philosophy of living a life of moderation. So there are always different practices of this. But the Stoicism, the topic of Stoicism, and the and this subject is the
And
discipline.
I think what I was saying is like even moderation can become an obsession.
Well, it can or can become the habit
Yeah.
that is teaching us it's okay to do something, but too much is bad. Too much of a good thing, bad thing.
Yeah, I've
So,
heard that.
so this is sure we might go to a Christmas party and have a couple of drinks. Okay, take part and to help get the spirit. But also, what happens if we enjoy the eggnog too much? Eggnog's got rum in it.
Unless it's non-alcoholic.
Well, yeah, there's two ways to make it, with or without. But however, many people would say that eggnog is not eggnog without the rum. So therefore, you haven't truly enjoyed eggnog. But however, if one has too many glasses of eggnog, what happens? They might find themselves on the table dancing, or the one walking around the room with the lampshade on the head. It's because they didn't moderate their drink. So you became gluttonous. And now you've got video footage of you dancing on the table in things that were your undergarments, or maybe less. Who knows? It depends on the party. But, or you might be the guy that ended up saying some things with the lampshade on your head that you might regret because you don't remember them because you had too much eggnog. It's also about being self-aware. But our drive and our purpose, we have to practice discipline in order to achieve. Because if we're never to achieve, we're too busy in what we want. And what we want isn't always a way to achieve where we need to be. But then again, all of this does take discipline to change our thinking, to change the way we act, change the way we view things. The philosophy of Stoicism in my thought is for us, or for people, or the individual, to gain more insight.
I have a few words written down.
Sure. What do you got?
Commitments, resilience, gratitude, evaluation and reflection, and discipline.
Yeah. And with those also helps, what they were saying is build character.
Did I say values?
No, but it helps to have them.
I think values is a part of that, core values.
Yeah, your core values. Because with our core values is sticking with them, and staying with that, we do not allow ourselves to be influenced, or we reduce the influence. Because with discipline, it maintains our direction. And many of us might be walking along and going for this path of striving. But striving can be, what am I going to accomplish today?
In the moment rather than continuously repetitive obsessions.
Right. Now, the day can be in the moment. What do I have to take care of today? That day can be the moment, because you're focused on today and what you have set out for yourself to achieve, and showing up.
Taking things one moment at a time.
Well, yeah. And it's also said that keep your mind on the here and now and the present, but be mindful of the future. And that was from a Star Wars movie, when Qui-Gon quoted to Obi-Wan, keep your mind on the here and now and the present, but be mindful of the future. We can't do anything about the future, which is where anxiety in one form can stem from. The what if, the hypothetical.
Well, all we have is the moment.
Well, in reality, yes. In
Like, the
reality,
future's
yes.
not here yet. The past is
Past is gone.
gone.
So we can't do anything about what has happened, but we can sure as hell learn from it.
Mhm. Making adjustments in the moment, and then you just got the future that you're trying not to worry about.
Mm-hmm. You know, in another one of these videos, and I've been watching a lot of these videos, which has helped in other areas and in personal areas of my life, is it talks about our emotions. And we can delve into that later as a topic of discussion. But however, because emotions and decisions and choices and striving are also emotional. So there is a part emotions do play in this. When we learn temperance and that denial of something temporarily, and there was,
Patience.
yes, and when we learn to not be so reactive, when we are reactive, those are our emotions taking over. Defense. When we're defensive, we've taken offense. We're having to justify something only because we're being defensive. We've taken offense to something. And I'm not talking about somebody pulling something out of your yard as a meme on you on Facebook. So I'm talking about being offended is not reacting to becoming open to what might be happening or what might be being said.
It's like once you get in a certain state of mind, it's like you're no longer listening, you're just running on emotions.
And how and what are some things that cause disagreements and arguments
Reactivity.
and us not taking the moment to listen, to hear. Yeah, I was in a debate yesterday and this person was presenting something in the debate, and it was a friendly debate of what the speculation and the opposing of something. And why isn't why is it that how come for this one group of people there's all these options, but yet the other doesn't have it? And without and I'm trying to not get into a
Yeah.
political, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to avoid the political part of this. It's because there was only one closed-minded cyclic thinking of repeated cycle.
It's like this bothers me so much, and how can you be against it kind of a thing.
Well, that and also it's an ideology. And when we allow ourselves to listen to something else or to someone else or to open the door, we challenge the ideology. When we self-reflect, we are challenging our own thoughts. We are challenging an ideology. Because an ideology is a single, it's secular. So before before we cause a close on this cast for today, what I'd like to ask, and if for those that listen to this, is with how things are today, what is it that we might regret? And is it worth holding that regret? Has me regretting this served me? I'm just posing that question out there as
Maybe
a
go look in the mirror and go say, "Hey, I forgive you."
yeah. But the thought I'm trying to leave here is, what is it that you regret? What is it that each of you regret? What is it that each of you regret doing or not doing, or wishing you had done? And what was the thought behind not doing it? It was done. What was your thought? What was the thought that was going through your mind? Was it in spite? Was it resentment? Was it retaliation? Was it vengeance? Or was it justified? And just leave you with those thoughts today. Leave each of you with that thought today. So, from Cal's Chambers, Cal Griffin out. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.